From bad to worse, that's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, wouldn't it be great if we had a real president right about now? One whom we could look to explain what's happening, reassure us that him and his team, they're all fully engaged. A president who could be trusted not to freeze on camera in mid-sentence and who, with a steely resolve, would put the fear of God in our enemies. Instead, we have a president who's so far gone that the White House called a lid late this morning. The Middle East is about to blow. Hamas and Iran are undoubtedly planning something bigger, and our president hasn't been seen publicly since 2:48 p.m. on Saturday, when he addressed the nation for a whopping 30 minutes on the attacks in Israel. Now, watching the carnage and the suffering, you've seen some of it already tonight, it makes you feel helpless and enraged. Nothing could ever justify what Hamas did. I called them animals earlier. That's an insult to animals. The purposeful murder of civilians, including the elderly, women, children, desecration of corpses, parading them around, all captured for social media. Kidnappings as well. Of course, the Biden people were too busy focused on the violent extremist Trump supporters to see any of this coming.
And the Middle East region is quieter today than it has been in 2 decades. Now, challenges remain. Iran's nuclear weapons program, the tensions between Israelis and Palestinians. But the amount of time that I have to spend on crisis and conflict in the Middle East today compared to any of my predecessors going back to 9/11 is significantly reduced.
He's slapping himself on the back. Good job. Brilliant. But it makes sense, right? Because to people like Biden and Blinken, their underlings, a primary threat to democracy and peace was never anything like Islamic terror. It was much closer to home.
This MAGA threat is a threat to the brick and mortar of our democratic institutions. But it's also a threat to the character of our nation. The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Racially motivated violent extremists as a group are the most dangerous of the domestic violent extremist groups, and within that, the white supremacists are the most dangerous and most lethal.
Now, the sad fact is, Democrats, all those people, are far more comfortable dealing with despotic regimes like the CCP than they are in dealing with conservatives. 74 million people across the country voted for Trump. People in their own states, their own districts. In fact, Schumer was in China when Israel was attacked. And even with all of his experience, Senator Schumer managed to be shocked that a tyrant like Xi only speaks out when it benefits him.
The ongoing events in Israel over the past few days are horrific. I urge you and the Chinese people to stand with the Israeli people and condemn these cowardly and vicious attacks. I was very disappointed, to be honest, by the foreign ministry statement that showed no sympathy or support for Israel during these troubled times.
Duh, because the Democrats' view of how the world works is a fantasy.
Some of our competitors have a very different vision. They want to upend the rules-based international order.
Abiding by the international rules-based order that has preserved peace and stability for many years.
Our shared commitment to a rules-based order. That includes freedom of navigation, peaceful resolution of disputes.
Of course, as Tony should know now, there has never been, there is no rules-based international order. It's a lie to get us to believe that the world community would somehow come together if we just give up a little bit of our freedom, give it up along the way. None of these people can be trusted. Look at how they continue to abuse their own power. The DOJ, Homeland Security, the FBI, they've become so politicized, so focused on taking out Trump, that they've abandoned all sense of duty to America, zero attention to the real threats that we face. And everything they touch, by the way, backfires. The Afghanistan pullout, releasing billions of dollars to Iran. But don't worry, all that's going to go. It's going to be used for cots and blankets, medicines, I'm sure.
Iran understands that $6 billion has been unfrozen, and that puts them in a position to spend money on things like a tax.
None of that money has been allocated or gone into Iran yet. They don't get access to it. It is only for humanitarian purposes, and it would be very difficult to see that money would somehow give them financial relief. Look, this is a nation state.
Money is fungible, so it changes your psychology.
There's not a credit line. It's set up for humanitarian assistance.
They don't give Republican activists the same benefit of the doubt, right? Conservative Catholic, as they do to Iran. They're trustworthy. And by the way, it's the same dogmatic deflection on closing of our southern border.
151 people on the terror watch list have crossed our southern border. What is being done to lock down those individuals who now are somewhere in the United States?
I don't have any specific law enforcement actions to speak to today. Obviously, we monitor threats to our national security from inside and outside the country, all in real time.
I don't have anything on that for you, Martha. We'll look into it, though. We already know what the Biden administration has done to our economy. They flattened it with inflation, massive spending, destruction of our energy independence. And on foreign policy, we know it's been just as much of a nightmare. The $100 billion spent by America in Ukraine, yet the summer offensive achieved exactly what? And with China, the more the CCP embarrasses Biden, the more officials that he sends there to grovel for a new beginning. With Biden, by the way, soon pulling up the rear in the suck-up parade. They're just laughing at us. Now, tragically, we're stuck with these people until 2024, and there is a lot of danger that could befall the United States between then and now. But one thing we should know by now is that writing the Pentagon, this Pentagon, a blank check is not the right course. They're a bunch of woke, radical incompetents. Not our soldiers, not our troops, the leadership. This is a horrific assault on Israel that needs to be managed by them and smartly. And I have full confidence they're going to do just that. And we should support them 100%. And at the same time, we need to be very careful not to give the Biden Defense Department carte blanche to make a horrible situation even worse. Because if anyone can make it worse, they can. And draw us into another nearly two-decade war in the Middle East. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.